Ladies and gentlemen, most people don't realize this, but your strength doesn't start in your arms, your back, or your body. It begins in your mind. Long before you ever pick up a weight, step into a challenge, or face a storm in life, you've already made a decision in your head about who you are and what you're capable of. And that decision, whether conscious or unconscious, determines how far you'll go. The mind writes the script and the body performs it. When you tell yourself, I can't, you've already closed the door on opportunity. When you say, I'll try, but deep down you've already accepted failure, you've built your own ceiling. But when you decide, even quietly, I will, you've shifted everything. The body follows the mind's command. That's why so many people live smaller than they were designed to. It's not because they aren't strong enough. It's because they convinced themselves they weren't. Think about it. The greatest battles you've ever fought were not out there in the world. They were inside your own head. The doubts, the fears, the voices that told you to give up before you even began. Those were your real enemies. And here's the truth. Every single person has them. The difference between the ones who win and the ones who don't isn't talent or luck. It's who refuses to let those voices decide their story. Strength begins in the mind before it shows in reality. That's not just a motivational line, it's a fact. You can look at history, at sports, at war, at business, at personal struggle. The people who rose to the top were not the ones who never felt fear or weakness. They were the ones who trained their minds to lead instead of follow. They told themselves, I will not quit. And even when they stumbled, even when they failed, that mental script kept them moving forward until their reality matched what they believed. See, the human mind is powerful beyond what most of us can imagine. Neuroscience even confirms it. The brain doesn't just reflect the world, it shapes it. When you focus on strength, resilience, and possibility, you literally rewire the pathways of your brain. You train it to expect growth instead of defeat. And when your mind expects strength, your body and spirit rise to meet it. But here's the catch. You can't fake it. You can't say, I'm strong, once and expect the universe to rearrange itself for you. This isn't about wishful thinking. It's about alignment. It's about deciding every single day that your thoughts will serve your future, not sabotage it. When you wake up and choose to believe that you are capable, when you train your inner dialogue to be disciplined, clear, and focused, you're building the foundation for everything else. And that's why so many people never discover how strong they really are. They've surrendered the battle of the mind without even fighting it. They've let emotions, circumstances, and temporary setbacks control their self-perception. They've allowed weakness to feel permanent, but weakness isn't permanent. It's a story, and the mind is the author of that story. Change the author, change the outcome. So I'll tell you this, if you want to prove that you're stronger than you think, don't start with your body. Don't start with your circumstances. Start with your mind. Train it like you would train a muscle. Guard it like you would guard treasure. Challenge it with thoughts of discipline, not defeat. Tell it the truth, that you are capable of more than you've ever allowed yourself to believe. And then, live as though that truth is already real. Because once the mind accepts it, the body has no choice but to follow. The moment you start choosing strength in your mind, you've already won half the battle. Because strength isn't something you stumble into. It's something you decide long before the world ever sees it. And that's the message I want to leave you with. Your strength is already there, inside of you. It's not waiting for the perfect moment. It's waiting for your permission. Give it. Step into it. Prove today, not tomorrow, that you're stronger than you think. You know, one of the most dangerous things we do to ourselves is underestimate what we've already lived through. We forget the storms we've survived, the nights we thought would break us, the setbacks that should have ended us, but didn't. And because we forget, We convince ourselves we're weaker than we are. But the truth is this: every scar you carry, every burden you've lifted, every obstacle you've climbed, that's evidence of strength. The problem is, most people never stop long enough to see it. We live in a culture that tells us strength is only about winning, about trophies, about public recognition. But strength isn't always loud, and it doesn't always make headlines. Sometimes it's just getting out of bed when your heart is heavy. Sometimes it's walking into work with your head up, even when life feels like it's falling apart. Sometimes it's choosing not to quit on yourself when quitting feels easier. That's strength. But if you don't pause to acknowledge it, you'll keep chasing an idea of strength that's always out there, somewhere beyond reach, instead of realizing it's already inside you. Think back to the hardest moment in your life. The moment you thought, I can't. But somehow you did. Maybe it wasn't graceful. Maybe it wasn't pretty. But you made it through. You might have crawled, stumbled, or cried your way forward. But the fact is, you're here. That means you had more strength than you gave yourself credit for. That strength didn't appear out of nowhere. It was always there, hidden under the surface, waiting to be called out. And if it was there then, it's here now. The problem is, our minds play tricks on us. They magnify the future and minimize the past. We look at what's coming and say, that's too big for me. But the mind forgets how many mountains we've already climbed. That's why perspective is everything. You can't measure your strength by what you feel in the moment. You measure it by what you've already overcome. Feelings will tell you you're weak, but facts tell another story. Let me break it down this way. Weakness is often an illusion. It's not that you don't have the strength, it's that you haven't tapped into it yet. People wait for confidence before they act. They wait for courage before they move. But confidence isn't the starting line, it's the finish line. You act first, and the strength shows up in the doing. You don't need to feel ready to prove you're ready. You prove you're ready by stepping forward, even when you feel weak. And every time you do, you build a new record in your mind, a new piece of evidence that says, I can handle this. And that evidence matters, because when the next storm comes, and it will, your strength won't be a question mark. You'll have proof. You'll have a track record. You'll look back and say, if I made it through that, I can make it through this. That's how people rise. That's how they keep moving forward when life tries to push them back. But here's where the philosophy comes in. Strength is not just about survival. It's about identity. The more you practice seeing yourself as strong, the more your mind rewires itself to believe it. And when your identity shifts, your behavior follows. You stop asking, can I do this? And you start declaring, this is who I am. I am the kind of person who endures, who fights, who rises. That shift from question to declaration, that's power. The truth is, you've already proven your strength 1,000 times over. The fact that you're alive, listening to this, breathing, learning, striving, that's proof. What's left now is for you to stop discrediting it, to stop ignoring it, to stop telling yourself you're weaker than you really are. If you want to discover just how strong you can be, start by honoring the strength you've already shown. That awareness will fuel your confidence to face whatever's ahead. So let me leave you with this. The storms of your past weren't sent to destroy you. They were sent to reveal you. And they did. They revealed strength, resilience, and grit you didn't know you had. Don't let yourself forget it, because the next time life tests you, and it will, you'll already know the answer. You're stronger than you think. Here's the truth: strength is not built in the moment of crisis. It's revealed there. What shows up when life throws a punch at you is whatever you've been training when nobody was watching. That's why so many people collapse under pressure, because they never trained their mind until the storm arrived. And when the storm comes, it's too late to start building the foundation. You have to stand on whatever you've already built. Think about it like this. An athlete doesn't wait until game day to start practicing. A soldier doesn't wait until the battlefield to learn how to fight. Yet most of us wait until life knocks us down to say, I need to get strong. But mental strength, like physical strength, is earned in the daily grind, in the repetitions, in the choices you make when nothing dramatic is happening. That's where the muscles of resilience are formed. So the question becomes, what are you training when life feels calm? Because whatever you practice in peace will be the reflex that shows up in chaos. If you practice distraction, if you practice procrastination, if you practice quitting when things get uncomfortable, that's exactly what will appear when pressure rises. But if you practice focus, if you practice patience, if you practice discipline, then those habits become automatic under fire. You won't have to think about staying calm. Your mind will know how to because you trained it that way. See, people often misunderstand discipline. They think it's punishment. They think it's about restriction. But discipline is freedom. It's the structure that holds you together when emotions want to tear you apart. It's the daily act of saying, I control my choices, my focus, my energy. And when you live with that kind of discipline, you stop being tossed around by every wave of emotion. You stand firm because your mind has been conditioned to lead, not follow. I'll give you an example. Let's say you make it a practice every morning to sit in silence for 10 minutes. Just breathing, observing, letting thoughts come and go without grabbing onto them. At first, it feels impossible. The mind jumps around. The body wants to move. But little by little, you teach your brain that it doesn't have to chase every thought. You teach your body that it can sit in discomfort and not react. Then one day, life throws chaos at you, an argument, a financial setback, a sudden loss, and guess what? That same mental muscle shows up. You don't immediately explode. You don't break. You breathe, you observe, you choose your response. That calm didn't appear by luck. It was trained. Training the mind daily is about exposing yourself to discomfort on purpose, so that when discomfort comes without warning, it doesn't break you. That might mean waking up earlier than you want to. That might mean sticking to a commitment long after the motivation wears off. That might mean facing truths about yourself you'd rather avoid. But every time you do, you're conditioning your brain to handle stress with steadiness instead of collapse. And here's the deeper philosophy. The mind is plastic. It reshapes itself according to what you repeat. If you repeat weakness, weakness becomes your default. If you repeat strength, strength becomes your identity. That's why small, daily acts of discipline matter more than dramatic bursts of effort. Consistency writes the story of who you are, and when the storm comes, your story is what carries you through. I know it's tempting to wait until you need strength to go looking for it. But you don't wait until you're drowning to learn how to swim. You practice while the waters are calm. Then, when the waves hit, your body already knows what to do. The same is true for your mind. If you train it daily, pressure won't crush you. It'll reveal the strength you've been building all along. So let me leave you with this. Don't wait for the storm to find out if you're strong enough. Build your strength now, in the quiet moments, in the daily choices, in the habits nobody sees. Because when the storm does come, and it will, you won't have to wonder how you'll survive. You'll already know. You trained for it. Here's what too many people get wrong about emotions. They think being strong means shutting them down. They think calm means numbness. But that's not strength, that's suppression. And suppression always leaks. You push it down here, it explodes somewhere else. You deny it today, it comes back stronger tomorrow. A strong mind doesn't silence emotions. It listens to them. It studies them. It interprets them. But it doesn't let them take the wheel. Think of emotions as signals, not commands. Anger is telling you something's off. Fear is warning you about risk. Sadness is pointing to something you've lost. But here's the trap. Just because the signal is loud doesn't mean it's right. Just because fear screams doesn't mean danger is real. Just because anger burns doesn't mean you should act on it. That's where strength comes in. It's the pause between feeling and acting. It's saying, I hear you, but I'm not going to let you run the show. You ever notice how kids act when they're upset? They cry, they throw things, they scream. Why? Because they haven't yet learned that emotions are information, not instructions. But as adults, many of us never grow past that stage. We just throw more sophisticated tantrums. We lash out with words instead of toys. We sabotage ourselves instead of stomping our feet. That's immaturity dressed up as adulthood. Real maturity is learning how to hold the feeling without being held hostage by it. See, emotions are part of being human. You're not supposed to be a robot, but you are supposed to be the leader of your own house. Imagine your emotions like house guests. Some bring wisdom. Some bring chaos. Some knock on the door just to test your boundaries. If you invite them all in and let them live rent-free, they'll run your life. But if you treat them as visitors, you welcome them, listen briefly, then decide what to do, you stay in control. The house is still yours. And here's where the philosophy runs deep. Every emotion you feel is shaped by the meaning you attach to events. The same event can make one person bitter and another person wiser. The event doesn't decide, the meaning does. And the meaning comes from your mind, not your emotions. That's why you can reframe anger into passion, fear into caution, sadness into gratitude. But you can only do that if your mind is steering the ship, not your feelings. Let's get practical. The next time you feel anger, instead of letting it explode, step back and ask, what is this trying to tell me? The next time fear rises, ask, is this protecting me or holding me back? The next time sadness lingers, ask, what can I honor, what can I learn, and how can I grow? By asking, you shift from being a victim of emotions to being a student of them. And a student always learns. A victim just reacts. And if you're wondering, does this mean I'll never feel overwhelmed? No. It means you'll stop being defined by overwhelm. You'll stop handing your identity over to whatever emotion shouts the loudest. Instead of saying, I am angry, you'll learn to say, I am experiencing anger. One is identity, the other is awareness. And the moment you create that gap, you step into power. So the choice is this: will you let emotions be your masters or your messengers? Because if you treat them as gods, they'll control every decision you make. But if you treat them as guides, temporary signals, not permanent truths, you'll move through life with clarity instead of chaos. Let me leave you with this: strength doesn't mean you don't feel. Strength means you don't bow to every feeling. It's the ability to listen without obeying, to feel without being driven, to acknowledge without surrendering. When you can do that, you're not just surviving, you're leading yourself. And the person who can lead themselves can face anything. What most people don't realize is that the way you talk to yourself shapes the way you see the world and the way you show up in it. Every single thought you repeat becomes a kind of internal programming. If your inner dialogue is filled with doubt, fear, and defeat, then don't be surprised when your emotions follow the same script. The mind and the emotions aren't separate. They're partners. And whichever voice is louder, that's the one that leads. Think about it. You can be in a perfectly neutral situation, but if your mind is saying, I can't handle this, your body will tighten, your chest will close, your breathing will shorten. That one sentence, just a thought, creates a physical storm. Now flip it. You can be in the same situation and tell yourself, I can stay calm through this. And suddenly your body softens, your breath slows, and clarity comes back. Nothing outside of you changed. The storm didn't vanish. But your inner dialogue turned chaos into control. This is why rewiring the inner dialogue is so powerful, because your mind doesn't know the difference between what is happening and what you keep repeating. If you say, I'm always anxious, your body believes it. If you say, I'm never enough, your spirit starts to shrink. But if you start to say, I'm steady, I'm strong, this will not break me, then even in the middle of pressure, something in you begins to rise instead of collapse. It's like training a muscle. You don't build strength in a single workout. You build it through repetition. The same goes for your thoughts. Repetition is the mother of mastery. That means you have to be deliberate with what you feed your mind. Because what you repeat becomes what you believe, and what you believe becomes how you feel. The real battlefield isn't out there. It's in here, in the sentences you whisper to yourself when nobody else can hear. And here's the truth: most people never question their self-talk. They let old programming, often inherited from childhood or past failures, run on autopilot. Maybe a teacher told you, you're not smart enough. Maybe life handed you a loss, and you decided, I'll never win. Those statements lodge themselves in the mind, and before you know it, they become the script of your life. But you have the power to edit that script. You can rewrite it. And the moment you start, everything shifts because your emotions begin to follow the new narrative. Now let's get real, it's not easy. The old thoughts will come back. The old emotions will knock on the door. But when they do, you don't have to let them in. You pause. You breathe. You tell yourself, that may have been true yesterday, but it's not true today. That's how you build mental strength. You practice. You repeat. You refuse to let your inner dialogue betray you. So here's a challenge for the next 7 days. Watch every sentence you speak to yourself. When the negative thought comes, don't argue with it, don't fight it. Replace it. Speak something stronger, something aligned with who you're becoming, not who you've been. Because when your self-talk changes, your emotions change. And when your emotions change, your actions change. And when your actions change, your life changes. It always starts with the words you plant in your own mind. Let me leave you with this: your inner dialogue is either the lock or the key. It can trap you in old patterns, or it can unlock strength you never knew you had. The choice is yours. But if you truly want to be unshakable, you've got to speak to yourself like someone worth fighting for. Because you are. And the day your thoughts start to serve your strength instead of your weakness, that's the day nothing outside of you can break what's inside of you. Here's what most people never slow down to realize: your story isn't finished yet. No matter how many chapters behind, you are stained with mistakes, pain, or missed chances, you're still holding the pen right now. And the truth is, the final chapters carry the most weight. People don't remember you for where you stumbled. They remember you for where you stood back up, how you closed the book, how you finished the race. That's why the way you end is more important than the way you began. Some of you may have started with disadvantages. Maybe you weren't given the right guidance, or you were born into a storm that you didn't create, and for years, you let that story define you. But here's the truth: your starting line doesn't determine your finish line. Life is full of examples of people who began with less than nothing and ended up rewriting what seemed impossible. And they all had one thing in common: they didn't let their past become a prison. They chose to use it as fuel. You see, when you decide that the next page of your life will be different, you start building momentum. And momentum is powerful. It doesn't care if you've been standing still for years. The moment you take one small step forward, the next step becomes easier, and the one after that easier still. Before long, the weight of your past isn't dragging you anymore. It's pushing you, reminding you of everything you refuse to go back to. But here's where it gets deeper. This isn't just about finishing strong for yourself. It's about what your finish says to the people watching you, your kids, your friends, your community, maybe even people you'll never meet. Because whether you know it or not, your life is an example. Someone out there is paying attention. They're learning what it looks like to carry pain with dignity, to turn failure into fuel, to rise when the odds are against you. And when you finish strong, you don't just redeem your own story. You give others permission to rise in theirs. Now, that doesn't mean finishing strong will be easy. In fact, the closer you get to the end, the more resistance you might feel. Think about runners in a marathon. The last mile is the hardest, not the first. Muscles are burning, lungs are tight, and everything in them says, stop. But it's also in that last mile where the crowd is the loudest, where the reward is closest, where the glory is waiting. Life works the same way. When you feel the most tired, the most discouraged, the most tempted to give up, that's usually the sign you're closer to the finish line than you think. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need perfection to finish strong. You just need consistency. You just need a decision. You just need the courage to say, the story of me will not end in defeat. Because strength isn't measured by how you avoid falling. It's measured by how you rise, how you walk forward, how you refuse to let the past dictate the end. So I'll ask you this, what will your last chapter say? Will it read like someone who gave up, who let life dictate their story? Or will it read like someone who discovered a strength deeper than they imagined? Someone who turned scars into lessons, someone who proved that the human spirit can rise. No matter how heavy the weight, you're stronger than you think, and proving it doesn't always mean grand gestures. Sometimes proving it looks like getting up one more morning when you feel like quitting. Sometimes it looks like choosing forgiveness instead of bitterness. Sometimes it looks like trying again when failure feels fresh. That's how you prove it, quietly, consistently, with courage. So as we close this journey, remember this, your beginning may not have been yours to choose, but your ending is. And the way you finish, that will echo louder than anything that came before. Don't hand the pen of your life to pain, to regret, to fear. Take it back. Write the ending that reflects your strength, your resilience, your courage. Because one day, when it's all said and done, it won't matter where you started. It will matter how you finished. And the people watching your life, including the future version of you, will know without question you proved it.